How is it going, YouTube? Malagant here. I'm going to be quickly updating you on the recent developer news from Diablo 4, which they just finished the, what did I call it? Let me see. Campfire chat. I think it was kind of a developer stream where they're giving information about like the news. Well, mostly answers about the concerns and community feedback that's been happening the past week or so. So, buffing the XP in Nightmare Dungeons is one of the biggest topics. They have confirmed that they're going to be buffing the XP in Nightmare Dungeons, and they're claiming that they're going to be making them much more efficient than normal dungeons. And the lead developer actually said that like it was, you know, this was kind of like confirmed mathematically as well, that they're checking XP per hour and loot per hour as well. Another thing that's going to be coming to Nightmare Dungeons is the travel time. Using the sigil, so the item itself will now just transport you to that Nightmare Dungeon or give you a transport. So they didn't necessarily like make it so clear if this is going to be, you know, literally just transporting your party immediately to the Nightmare Dungeon, or if it's gonna like supply your party with a portal in the town, which they really like the towns as far as I can tell so far. So I don't know which one it's going to be, but we are not going to be traveling to the Nightmare Dungeons anymore as far as I can tell. So this is a very good thing to right off the bat. Two very important aspects that are going to be coming before Season 1. So these changes are goal to be in the game pre-season, and they're being worked on right now, they said. So Season 1 is destined to be mid to late July. So we can expect these two big changes in the game in Diablo 4 before that. They mentioned that between the characters, so between alts and your main, Fog of War, it doesn't really feel so good anymore. When you create a new character, the entire map closing down, it doesn't feel so good anymore. So I'm expecting them to, you know, not necessarily close this anymore. So they have also mentioned that in the season, the Fog of War is not going to be appearing again. So it, you know, wherever you have opened in your map will be open in Season 1. So this is going to be reflecting to your alts right now in Season 1 as well. So until Season 1, I don't necessarily think that like they'll be messing around with like alts, you know, removing the Fog of War, and with your main, whatever you have explored, we'll be able to see. I think with the Season 1's launch, that won't be a thing anymore anywhere at all. So like once you, in Diablo 4, once you explore something, it will be visible on the map for you. I think that's their approach, but it will be there with Season 1. Also before Season 1, they have also mentioned that like the veiled crystals, the crafting materials that you get from dismantling rare items in the game, that has a cap in the game right now as I speak. It's 10,000, I think. I didn't really know. I really hope I didn't waste some materials. But they said that like they are either removing the cap or will be increasing it quite a bit. About the resistances, they have talked quite a bit as well. They're working, the resistances are working, but they turned out to be not as valuable as they wanted them to be. They clearly said so, especially in higher tier world tiers, because like they said, there's a diminishing return when it comes to the calculation of the resistances when you're, you know, increasing and going higher in the world tiers. So it becomes a less valuable stat unfortunately. So they hinted that like a long-term change is being worked on for this to cause, and because they would like them to be more of a valuable stat. Yeah, definitely. They're working on fixes for confirmed bugs that caused lots of deaths in hardcore. So we have been watching a lot of like popular streaming clips in the past, you know, 2 weeks now, and they are basically saying that like the confirmed bugs are, you know, being worked on, and as they are fixed, they're definitely like hot fixed into the game immediately. On top of this hardcore issue, another question was from the community was the DC. You know, there are lots of deaths where you're just DCing and dying. I think one of them happened to Shroud. So they're working on a fix, but they said it's going to be a long-term implementation. It might actually take some time to implement, as long as Season 2, in fact. They mentioned this, but the fix itself is pretty good idea in my opinion. I really hope they can pull this off. It says for whatever reason you DC in hardcore, if you had a Scroll of Escape in your bags, in your inventory, the game will automatically use this and TP your character to safety. So this means that like no matter the reason, if you disconnect instead of, you know, exiting the game, Even if you wouldn't have died, it doesn't really matter. The second that you disconnect, the game is going to be consuming one of your scroll of escapes and taking you to safety. This is just very, very good idea, and a very good welcoming idea in my opinion. I would definitely like consider playing hardcore myself too after this, 100%. Another question was about like looking for group channels, some social features, perhaps like a trade channel, because it's kind of difficult to do that except Discord within the game, of course. They said they are not necessarily sure how to approach this yet because of the crossplay, especially has some difficulties when it comes to setting social features and stuff. But I guess they're kind of like monitoring it, and perhaps in the future we will see something from them. But as far as I understood, nothing soon. There's a known bug with Druid finding lots of barb uniques and legendaries right now in the game. They're definitely working on that, and it will be a hotfix when it is available. But another question followed this up and asked, if you're playing an X class, will you still be able to occasionally find the Y class's legendaries? And the answer is yes, this is intended, and you should be able to find some like, off class or side class legendaries here and there. It is definitely intended. It should be quite rare though. For the Season 1, they have promised a chunky patch. I have no idea what that means apart from like, because we have seen from a lot of ARPGs the chunky patch could actually mean also nothing, because lots of skills can have like a decent paragraph writing there, problem, solution, we did this, well, nobody's gonna use it anyways, kind of thing. So I'm not sure about that chunky patch. I'm gonna have to like see, what it actually offers. But in the season gameplay, they said in the seasonal gameplay, you don't have to complete the campaign again. I'll try to be as clear as possible here. The amount of fog of war you have revealed pre-season will come with you to the season, so no more exploring. And at this point, it will also open on all of your alts. Renown, it resets. So you're gonna need to complete the regional renowns again. However, the altars, you won't need to discover them again. Only the ones that you have discovered on your main, obviously, like pre-season. If you have collected all of the altars and you have collected all those like +2 stats, etc. from all of the altars of Lilith, you won't need to do this in the seasonal gameplay. The same thing can be said for opening the map. If you have opened the entire map, and I'm not talking about the waypoints, because the waypoints are going to be disappearing. You will need to claim the waypoints one more time. But the fog of war won't be there anymore if you opened the entire map. Now, the renown resets. However, since you have completed many altars and you have explored an entire map, assuming, those points are going to be added to your progression in the renown bars for every corresponding region. This comes to somewhat 2 tiers of progression. So this means that like right off the bat, if you've completed everything right now in the season, you will start with like 5 skill points to a character. Does that make sense to you? Hopefully. But the paragon points that are coming from the renown, for instance, or the secondary skill points that are coming from the renown points, they won't be there because you're gonna need to progress those again. This is, in my opinion, some personal inputs here. This is going to be causing a lot of backlash. I think people don't really want to progress renown in this game. I can easily tell this. I don't think they want to. For Season 2, they're thinking of making gems, how the materials and crafting materials are working right now in the game. So they're, I think, thinking about just making them disappear in the game and just like perhaps just directly go to in your material section, I think. But they have mentioned that like this is probably going to be as far as Season 2, not before. So these are the things that I have mentioned. There were some like questions from Twitch that I have taken as well, but I am not necessarily sure if these were real, because to be honest with you, they were not necessarily so good questions. I think maybe I didn't really like them personally. We'll see. Before jumping into the Q&A, I should say, they said we have a variety of buffs incoming in the future patch before the Season 1, but they didn't necessarily say anything specific at all. So these buffs, I'm assuming is going to be to the characters that are like underperforming, and we will probably be seeing quite a bit of like meta shift. I can definitely assume that. So the first question was, can we TP to the players instead of town directly? And the answer was clear. They said they are not planning to change that right now, but they will keep an eye on it. And personal inputs over here, as I said, I think the towns are very important. They don't necessarily want to, you know, delete that town at all. Another question was planning on buffing the source regeneration, because sometimes it really feels awful. And the answer was, we want to be very careful. There will be some tweaks in this buff patch, but we don't really want to invalidate the resources in the game. You know, they talked a little bit more about this actually, but you can probably understand where they're coming from. So they want to, you know, leave the resource regeneration somewhat like within the game. They'll probably like tweak it a little bit though, it seems like. Another question was, can we change appearance in the game anytime soon? And the answer is no, not soon, but it will be there at some point. And another thing that was like, you know, mentioned on top of this question was that they're going to be trying to add like more hairstyles, more piercings, more markings on the body, you know, maybe even like more new faces to the characters. But these are going to be available first as priority to the developers. They are going to be available when you're creating a new character rather than implementing a complete, you know, character customization within the game. So that's going to be coming later on. But it seems like they would rather implement more things first and then give us the option to change that within the game. But it will be coming at some point, they said. Another question was, can we track the side quests for completion? And the answer was probably not, as it is not necessary for Renown either. And they would also like to keep some of the side quests as like a surprise, also a hidden kind of thing, because I suppose they are like that. So these were all the things that I managed to get from like this Q&A and the Campfire chat that they have prepared as like an answer to this community. You know, feedback, let's say, kind of like a common feedback, especially about the Nightmare Dungeons. That is definitely a shared concern, and I think Nightmare Dungeons should be definitely performing better, and they should be the go-to end game goal, while, you know, maintaining some sort of like a good repeatable game. Now at the end of this video, you can definitely go away. This is going to be my personal input. I think Diablo 4's biggest problem right now is the fact that you don't want to go one more. That needs to change immediately. When in ARPGs, if you're enjoying what you're doing in the end game, which end game is the biggest game in ARPGs most of the time, and I'm sure the developers of Diablo 4 wants this to happen. Listen here. In Diablo 4, you don't have the feeling that you want to go. You kind of want to stop, actually, because there are a lot of hassles. You finish your Nightmare Dungeon, you level the thing up, you go to the town. Now this is starting right there. The NPCs that you need to deal with, they're spread all over the place. And the town changes every time, depending on the Nightmare Dungeon you exited from. On top of this, you need to clear the entire bag. You need to figure out every time, unfortunately every time, because we don't have space to hoard. There's no space. We're still using a stash from Diablo 2, which was 20 years ago. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. There's no other way. I don't know. This is crazy lazy design. Listen. You will want to, in late game, you will crave to go one more. Diablo 4 is taking away that feeling because you have to do so many things in between two Nightmare Dungeon runs. You have to figure out which legendary is worth taking the power out of, which items are worth going into the NPC as a sale, which items are worth salvaging, which items are worth perhaps considering to sell. And all of these things needs to be done in between two runs. This needs to change, Blizzard. If you want your end game to be fluid, and if you would like players to continue just going for more and more Nightmare Dungeons, which you should, that is how the end game is designed in ARPGs, you will need to change, unfortunately, you will need to give insane amounts more stash space with customizable stash space, something that is crazy modern and fitting to this beautiful game. And thanks to that, people will be able to do what? People will be able to just instantly get out of their nightmare dungeons, go to their stash space, just instantly put everything in their stash, continue to the next one, put those into their stash as well, continue to the next one, and at the end they will have to come to a point, okay, I'm kinda running out of place now, or the night is over, let me just quickly get rid of all of these items that I've accumulated the entire night and then go to bed. This needs to be that way. There is no other solution. If you would like to continue, it is like as it is right now, it is going to be giving the feeling of fatigue to the player. If it's not in 3 nightmare dungeons, the same feeling will be in 5 of them. It is always the case. You need to give the option to player to just go and never mind the inventory fatigue or tension. This is actually well aware, the developers of Diablo 4 is well aware of this, and they have actually called this, I have never heard of this term before, they called it inventory tension, and this exists in this game, but not all the time. They came to this inventory tension from gems. Gems is perhaps an inventory tension in the early game. Believe it or not, guys, in the late game there's no gems problem in Diablo, because you know, you get to a tier, I don't really remember the names, okay, but like let's say it's just the base name. Amethyst is like the latest one, and then you can craft 1 up using your jeweler, and I just craft these when I need them. So you know, I need 5 of them for my chests, for my armor. I craft 5 of these, and then the rest of the amethysts, they're in my bank, and I don't even need to ever loot them again. So that's tension coming from the gems during the leveling is gone in the late game. There's no need to make them materials or whatever. It will obviously be good for the leveling section because they were upgrading and you had to carry them within your bags. But in the late game, there's no such worry because they can just sit in your bank and you never care about them almost ever again. You can ask yourself, what if you find an upgrade? Well, you take out the gem that is already in your weapon and you put it into the new one. There is literally no gem problem in the late game. It's just the design of the leveling that has the issue. But there's a massive inventory management and stash management just because of how the vendors are spread and just because of how you kind of have to do it every single time throughout the game. After every dungeon, after every hell tide. During the hell tide, I need to clean my bags 5 times. So there are lots of adjustments that you can make here. You can either like give us housing, player housing, like Path of Exile does, and we can have our own NPCs within wherever we would like them to be, and then increase the stash space. And these fixes that I just said, or these suggestions that I just said the past 10 seconds, is gonna fix this entire tension instantly. Because if you give a lot of stash space and put the NPCs together within the player housing, then we'll be able to just teleport to our nightmare dungeon and then come back to our housing and then immediately just put everything there, or sell everything if I want to, or if we want to, and then afterwards we'll go next. So it will be up to the player instead of having a limitation there. Or you could choose to continue using the towns, right? And in that case, what you could do is still increase the stash space, obviously, still give it at our own disposal to, you know, select the time, because this is definitely hindering us. It's a hamstring to the party play as well, because people are waiting for each other. Some people would like to go while the others needs to take more care about their trash. Trash, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm gonna cut this right over here. Sorry for the last banter, but I really got triggered because this is, in my opinion, one of the biggest problems in the game right now. People would like to play the end game, and this is the one that is hamstringing the end game the most out of, you know, after playing like 200 hours the past couple of weeks. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, YouTube. I'll see you next time.